Hey friends, thanks for joining me for another exciting installment of our AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner Exam Practice Question Series. In this segment, we will tackle 30 more questions to sharpen your skills. Now, if you have been following along and finding our content helpful, please share these videos with your colleagues so everyone can benefit. And for our new viewers, do not forget to give us a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. Now let's dive into the questions for this video.
A company wants to build a serverless application that executes code in response to events such as changes to Amazon S3 buckets or updates to DynamoDB tables. They require a service that can automatically scale and handle the event-driven execution. Which AWS service should they use? Your options are Amazon Event Bridge, AWS Step Functions, AWS Lambda, Amazon SNS. This is one of the questions where question itself is the definition of the service, and correct answer in this case is AWS Lambda, which is a serverless compute service that allows you to run code without provisioning or managing servers. It can be triggered by events such as changes to Amazon S3 buckets or updates to DynamoDB tables. Lambda automatically scales and executes code in response to events, which is one of the requirement in this case. Question number 152 of the series. Which of the following is the responsibility of client under the AWS shared responsibility model? You need to choose two options. Your options are decommission physical storage devices, control physical access to data centers, patch management of an Amazon EC2 instance operating system, security group and ACL configuration, patch management of an Amazon RDS instance operating system. Now, folks, whenever you have questions on shared responsibility model, then you just need to think whether do you have access to perform the activity that is being talked about in this question. If you think you have access to perform the activity, then most likely you would be the one who is responsible to do that. And if you don't have access, then it would be most likely AWS responsibility. So let's look at first option here. Decommission physical storage devices. You don't have access to physical infrastructure in any cloud computing vendor. So this is not your responsibility. This is AWS responsibility. Now, second option is control physical access to data centers. You don't even know where the data centers are hosted. You might know which region the data centers are in, but you would not know the exact location. So how would you control physical access to data centers? So again, this is not client's responsibility. The third option is patch management of an Amazon EC2 instance operating system. Now, Amazon EC2 is an infrastructure as a service where you have access to operating system. You are the one who is going to manage it. So it lies under your responsibility. Then the next option is security group and ACL configuration. Again, you do have access to create security groups and ACLs when you are creating EC2 instances. So this is something which is under your responsibility. And the last option, patch management of an Amazon RDS instance operating system. Now, Amazon RDS is a managed service. Whenever you are dealing with managed service, you don't have access to underlying infrastructure. So this is not your responsibility, and it is going to fall under AWS responsibility. Let's look at next question of the series. A company wants to migrate its on-premise web application to AWS. The application consists of multiple components, including a web server, application server, and database server. The company wants to ensure high availability and scalability for the application. Which AWS services should they use? Now you are given a combination of different services and different options, and you need to tell which AWS services should the company use, and the requirements are given there. Whenever you have such questions, then most likely the answer would be a managed service, because they are looking for high availability and scalability. And the correct answer in this case would be option D, Amazon ECS or also called as Elastic Container Service, can be used to deploy and manage the web servers, application servers, and database servers component as containers. Now, the next service, Amazon Aurora, can be used as a managed database service for high availability and scalability. And the third option, which is part of option D, is AWS auto scaling, which can be utilized to automatically scale the application based on predefined conditions, making option D as a correct choice in this case. Next question. How should you grant an Amazon EC2 instance access to an Amazon S3 bucket in accordance with security best practices? Your options are: modify the S3 bucket policy so any service can upload to it at any time. Have the EC2 instance assume a role to obtain the privileges to upload the file to S3 bucket. Hardcode an IAM user secret key and access key directly in the application and upload the file to S3 bucket. Store the IAM user secret and access key in a text file on the EC2 instance. Read the keys and then upload the file. Now, the best practice for granting an Amazon EC2 instance access to an Amazon S3 bucket is to have the EC instance assume a role to obtain the necessary privileges. This approach provides a more secure and scalable solution compared to the other options which are mentioned in this question. Now let's look at why other options are not right. Option A, which is to modify the S3 bucket policy to allow any service to upload to it at any time, is not recommended because it grants overly broad access, potentially exposing the bucket to unauthorized access and misuse. Option C, hard coding an IAM user secret key and access key directly in the application is again highly discouraged. Hard coded credentials pose a significant security risk as they can be easily compromised if an attacker gains access to the application's code or environment. Option D, storing the IAM's user's access and secret key in a text file on the EC2 instance is also not recommended, because storing credentials in plain text increases the risk of unauthorized access and compromises the security of the account. So now you would have more idea around why option B has been chosen. Let's look at next question. A company wants to deploy a serverless application that requires long-running workflows and coordination between multiple microservices. They want to utilize and monitor the execution flow of their application. Which AWS service should they use? Your options are AWS Step Functions, AWS Batch, AWS Glue, Amazon SWF. There are many keywords in this question such as serverless, long-running workflows, coordination between microservices, and these all are related to only one option, that is AWS Step Functions, which is a fully managed service that allows company to coordinate and visualize workflows for their serverless applications. It provides a graphical console to design, run, and monitor workflows. Step Functions is suitable for making and managing long-running workflows and coordinating microservices. Let's look at question 156. Which AWS service provides a quick and automated way to create and manage AWS accounts? Your options are AWS QuickSight, AWS Organizations, Amazon Lightsail, Amazon Connect. And the correct answer in this case is option B, AWS Organizations, which lets you create new accounts at no additional charge. With accounts in an organization, you can easily allocate resources, group accounts, and apply governance policies to accounts or groups. Some of the use cases are automate AWS account creation, which is what is being asked in this question. Then some of the other use cases are enable proactive protection with a dedicated security group. It also ensures user access to designated resources, and it also enables you to share common resources across accounts. Now, there have been many questions around different use cases of AWS organization throughout the series. So there can be many variations to this question. The different questions that you would have seen might seem same, but obviously there are different use cases that are being talked about in different options. So read the question carefully and see which use case is being talked about, because there can be different use cases of different AWS services. A company wants to migrate their existing relational database to AWS. They require a fully managed database service that offers high performance, scalability, and automated backups. Which AWS service should they use? Your options are Amazon RDS, Amazon DynamoDB, Amazon Elastic Cache, Amazon Redshift. And the correct answer here is option A, Amazon RDS, which is a fully managed relational database service that allows companies to migrate their existing databases to AWS. It offers high performance, scalability, and automated backups, making it suitable for migrating relational databases. Now, you might be tempted to choose DynamoDB here because it is also a managed service and does offer high availability, scalability, and automated backups as well. But remember, DynamoDB is a NoSQL database and is not suitable for migrating any existing relational database. So the keyword to answer this question is relational database, apart from obviously looking at high performance, scalability, and automated backups. Amazon Elastic Cache is an in-memory caching service, and Redshift is a fully managed data warehousing service here. So they are obviously not the correct choice in this case. Question number 158 of the series. Which scenarios should a user report to the AWS abuse team? You need to choose two options. Your options are SQL injection attack being made from an IP address that doesn't belong to AWS, a DDoS attack being made on an AWS resource, patch management of an Amazon EC2 instance operating system. A company's resources are being used in a way that is inconsistent with the corporate policy. AWS resources are being used to host objectionable or illegal content. A company is receiving HTTPS requests on a web server that is serving HTTP traffic. Now, the correct answers here are option B and option E. A DDoS attack being made on an AWS resource, and AWS resources are being used to host objectionable or illegal content. The AWS abuse team can assist you when AWS resources are implicated in multiple abuse types. Now, the first one is web content or non-copyright intellectual property, that's objectionable content hosted on an AWS resource, which is what is option E in this case. Then they can help you with network activity that's originating from an AWS resource that causes problematic network traffic. And this can be an intrusion attempt, denial of service attack, port scanning, or any other abusive network activity, which is what is being talked about in option B, hence making option B and option E as the correct choice here. Now, there are more scenarios where AWS abuse team will be able to help you, and they include email abuse. Email abuse is basically an abusive email is sent from an AWS resource, or a spam content hosted on or sent from an AWS resource. They'll also help you with copyright issues that subject to content removal requests regarding the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. Question number 159. A business needs to ensure that users of the AWS Management Console adhere to password complexity requirements or guidelines. How can the business customize the password complexity? Your options are use an AWS Organization Service Control Policy or SCP, use an AWS IAM account password policy, use an AWS IAM user policy, use an AWS Security Hub Managed Insight. To customize password complexity for users of the AWS Management Console, the business can utilize an AWS IAM account password policy. The account password policy can include various requirements, such as they might specify a minimum number of characters that password must contain, or they could enforce that a special character type, such as uh, uppercase letters, lowercase letters, or special characters, so that password becomes more complex. They could also enforce a maximum password age after which users will be prompted to change their password, or they could even prohibit users from reusing their previous passwords to ensure better security. And you could also set the number of failed logon attempts before an account is logged, and you could also set the duration of the lockout period. So these are all standard requirements that you might have seen in your corporate accounts, where you have to change passwords after a certain amount of time, and there are some complexities like uh, case sensitive things, and you can't use your previous three passwords and so on. So this is what you can achieve in AWS as well using IAM account password policy. Next question. An organization wants to remove the necessity for pre-deployment estimation of infrastructure capacity. Additionally, the organization wants to spend money on cloud resources only when the resources are needed. Which AWS cloud feature best meets the organization's needs? Your options are reliability, global reach, pay-as-you-go pricing, economies of scale. Now, the cloud feature that best meets the organization need of removing the necessity for pre-deployment estimation of infrastructure capacity and spending money on cloud resources only when is needed is pay-as-you-go pricing. Now, with pay-as-you-go pricing, the organization can dynamically scale its infrastructure up or down based on demand without the need for upfront estimation. It allows the organization to spend money on cloud resources only when they are utilized. So basically, they are charged for the actual usage duration and resource consumption, which is what is pay-as-you-go pricing. Question number 161. How does consolidated billing help reduce costs for a company that has multiple AWS accounts? It aggregates usage across accounts so that the company can reach volume discount thresholds sooner. It gives AWS resellers the ability to bill their customers for usage. It provides a simplified billing invoice that the company can process more quickly than a standard invoice. It offers an additional 10% discount on purchases of all upfront reserved instances. Consolidated billing in AWS allows a company with multiple AWS accounts to combine the billing and payment of all those accounts into a single consolidated invoice. This has many advantages, including the ability to reduce cost through volume discounts. So the correct answer here is option A. It aggregates usage across accounts so that the company can reach volume discount thresholds sooner. Next question. Which disaster recovery option is the least expensive? Your options are backup and restore, multi-site, warm standby, pilot light. The least expensive disaster recovery option is backup and restore. It is the basic disaster recovery approach where regular backups of data and system are taken and stored securely. In the event of disaster, the data and systems can be restored from these backups. This method typically incurs low cost compared to other options, as it does not involve maintaining additional infrastructure or resources in standby mode. But remember, when you are using backup and restore options, it comes with its own drawbacks as well, where RPO and RTO are high compared to the other options. So you need to weigh in the pros and cons when you are choosing the disaster recovery strategy for your business. But obviously, that is out of the scope for this question. In this question, the least expensive option is being asked, which is backup and restore. Question number 163. Which AWS support plan provides a full set of AWS Trusted Advisor checks? Your options are basic and developer support, business and basic support, business and enterprise support, developer and enterprise support. And the correct answer here is option C, business support and enterprise support. Now, with AWS basic support and AWS developer support, customers can access core security checks and checks for service quotas. But with AWS business and enterprise supports, customers can access all checks, including cost optimization, security, fault tolerance, performance, and service quotas as well. Next question. A company has infrastructure in one AWS region and is expanding operations to a second AWS region. The company is using the same AWS CloudFormation template in the second region that the company uses in the original region. The company attempts to launch Amazon EC2 on-demand instance in the second region and receives error messages. What could cause these error messages? The company cannot operate in a second region until it updates its AWS contracts. The company has not configured AWS budgets to monitor the budget for the EC2 instances. The requested EC2 instance types are not available in the second region. A new EC2 key pair has not been created for the EC2 instances. The correct answer here is option D. A new EC2 key pair has not been created for the EC2 instances. If you are using an existing key pair from the original region, it might not work in the second region because key pairs are specific to each region. You should create a new key pair for the second region and specify it in your CloudFormation template. Question number 165. A company is planning to migrate its on-premise infrastructure to AWS. They have a large number of virtual machines running different operating systems and applications. The company wants to simplify the migration process and minimize the impact on their existing systems. Which AWS service should they use? Your options are AWS Application Migration Service, AWS Snowball, AWS Data Sync, AWS Application Discovery Service. And the correct answer here is option A, AWS Application Migration Service, which is a highly automated lift and shift solution that simplifies, expedites, and reduces the cost of migrating applications to AWS. It also allows companies to lift and shift a large number of physical, virtual, or cloud servers without compatibility issues, performance disruptions, or long cutover windows, which is what is one of the requirement in this question. The statement which told us this was the company wants to simplify the migration process and minimize the impact on their existing systems. So they are looking for a short cutover window, or probably you can say a small maintenance window where their services are down. How does AWS charge for AWS Lambda usage once the free tier has been exceeded? You need to choose two options. By the number of versions of a specified Lambda function, by the time it takes for the Lambda function to execute, by the programming language that is used for the Lambda function, by the number of requests made for a given Lambda function, by the total number of Lambda functions in an AWS account. And the correct answers here are option B and option D. AWS bills based on the total compute time consumed by the Lambda function, which is measured in milliseconds. Now, the time is calculated from the moment the function starts executing to the moment it completes, which is why option B is correct. And AWS charges per request for the number of times a Lambda function is invoked. Each time the function is triggered, whether by an API call, event source, or any other means, it counts as a request. Hence, option D is also correct here. Next question. A user needs an automated security assessment report that will identify unintended network access to Amazon EC2 instances and vulnerabilities on those instances. Which AWS service will provide this assessment report? Your options are Amazon Inspector, EC2 Security Groups, AWS Config, Amazon Macie. And the correct answer here is option A, Amazon Inspector. Question number 168 of the series. AWS CloudFormation is designed to help the user with which of the following activities? Your options are set up data lakes, model and provision resources, update application code, create reports for billing. And the correct answer here would be option B, model and provision resources. Question number 169. Your organization needs to store large amounts of unstructured data in the cloud. Which AWS service is best suited for this purpose? Your options are Amazon S3, Amazon DynamoDB, AWS Snowball, AWS Storage Gateway. For storing large amount of unstructured data in the cloud, the best suited AWS service is Amazon S3, also called a simple storage service. I highly recommend you to go through my detailed video on Amazon S3, as you can expect to see multiple storage related questions in the exam. Let's look at question number 170 of the series. Your organization wants to grant temporary limited access to AWS resources for external partners without creating AWS IAM users. Which AWS service can help you achieve this? You need to select two options here. Now, the condition is the organization wants to grant temporary limited access to AWS resources for external partners, and they don't want to create the IAM users for those users. Your options here are AWS SSO, Amazon Cognito, AWS Directory Service, AWS IAM roles, AWS organizations. The two AWS services that can help you achieve this requirement, basically to grant temporary limited access, is Amazon Cognito and AWS IAM roles. With Amazon Cognito, you can authenticate external partners and provide them with temporary limited access to specific AWS resources. It supports temporary security credentials to grant access to AWS services without the need for a long-term IAM user account, which is what is being asked in this question. Now, for the second one, when external partners need access to AWS resources, you can assume an IAM role temporarily, which grants them the necessary permissions. These temporary credentials provided by IAM roles have an expiration time, ensuring limited access. Next question. A company has a AWS managed IAM policy that does not grant the necessary permissions for users to accomplish required tasks. How can this be resolved? Your options are use a third-party web application firewall managed rule from the AWS Marketplace, enable AWS Shield Advanced, use AWS Key Management Service KMS to create a customer managed key, create a custom IAM policy. And the correct answer here is create a custom IAM policy. Creating a custom IAM policy allows you to define and fine tune the specific permission required for individual users, groups, or roles in your AWS account. By creating this, you can grant the precise permission needed to perform the required tasks without providing unnecessary access, which also follows the AWS principle of least privilege. Question number 172 of the series. Which AWS service is designed to help users who want to use machine learning for natural language processing (NLP) but do not have experience in machine learning? AWS Recognition, AWS Deep Learning AMIs, Amazon Comprehend, Amazon SageMaker. And the correct answer here is Amazon Comprehend, which is an AWS service designed to help users who want to use machine learning for natural language processing but do not have experience in machine learning. So basically, you can notice the question here is just the definition of Amazon Comprehend service. So you can expect to see some questions in the exam where they have just mentioned the definition of a AWS service in the question, and then in the answer options you have multiple options which are different AWS services. So it is very important that you know which AWS service corresponds to which functionality, because these questions are the easiest ones. Okay. So Amazon Comprehend basically uses pre-trained machine learning models to analyze and extract insights from unstructured text data such as sentiment analysis, entity recognition, language detection, key phrase extraction, and topic modeling. Question number 173 of the series. A running Amazon EC2 instance will be interrupted if capacity becomes temporarily unavailable. In which of the following pricing models? Your options are on-demand instances, spot instances, standard reserved instances, convertible reserved instances. In the spot instance pricing model, you can bid for unused EC2 instance capacity in the AWS cloud. The price of a spot instance fluctuates based on supply and demand for instance capacity. If your bid price exceeds the current spot price, your instance will be launched and run as long as the spot price remains below your bid price. However, because spot instances are based on unused capacity, there might be situations where the capacity becomes temporarily unavailable due to increased demand from other users or the need for AWS to reclaim the capacity. In such cases, AWS may terminate spot instances with a 2-minute warning, allowing you to gracefully handle the interruption and save your work. So it is always recommended that if you want to use spot instances for cost saving, then you do not put the workloads that cannot handle interruption on those instances. If you have such workloads which can handle interruptions and you are looking for cost saving, then spot instances are best for you. But if your application cannot handle interruptions, then spot instance is not something which is recommended for your use. Next question. You are the security officer in your organization and want a list of any potential vulnerabilities in Amazon EC2 security groups. Which AWS service should you use? Your options are AWS Trusted Advisor, Amazon Guard Duty, AWS CloudTrail, AWS Artifact. And the correct answer here is AWS Trusted Advisor. Now, there is a link on your screen at the moment, which will be available in the description section of this video. Go through the link to understand more about how AWS Trusted Advisor can help you in determining any potential vulnerabilities in Amazon EC2 security groups. Question number 175 of the series. If a user has an AWS account with an enterprise level AWS support plan, who is the primary point of contact for billing or account inquiries? Your options are AWS Concierge Support Team, AWS Marketplace Seller, AWS Partner Network Partner, Solutions Architect. AWS Concierge Support Team provides personalized white glove support for enterprise level AWS support customers. They serve as the primary contact for any billing, account, or general inquiries related to the AWS account. Next question. Which of the following are categories of recommendations provided by AWS Trusted Advisor? You need to choose 3 options here. Now your options are cost optimization, high availability, fault tolerance, least privilege access, and performance. And the correct answers are now on your screen, which are cost optimization, fault tolerance, and performance. Again, I have a link on my screen, which you can use to read about different type of recommendations that are made by AWS Trusted Advisor. Now, for the sake of this video, apart from these 3, it also provides recommendations related to fault tolerance and service quotas. So total, it provides recommendations for 5 categories: cost optimization, fault tolerance, performance, service quotas. Let's look at question number 177. Which of the following AWS service would enable you to share reserved instances across multiple accounts that your company manages? Your options are AWS CloudFormation, AWS Organizations, Amazon CloudWatch, AWS Direct Connect. And the correct answer here is AWS Organization. which is a service that helps you centrally manage and govern multiple AWS accounts within your organization. It allows you to create groups of accounts and apply policy to these groups. One of the features provided by AWS organizations is the ability to share reserved instances between member accounts in an organization. Question number 178. Which service provides a highly available and elastic NFS file system for both cloud-based and on-premise servers? Your options are Amazon S3, Amazon S3 Glacier, Amazon Elastic File System, also called as EFS, Amazon Elastic Block Store, also called as EBS. EFS is designed to provide a simple and scalable file storage solution for cloud-based and on-premise servers. EFS supports the NFS protocol, which is Network File System Protocol, making it compatible with a wide range of operating system and applications. Next question. Your company is moving their data storage from on-premise to cloud. You are tasked with evaluating different approaches for data warehousing. Which AWS service should you use that provides a managed data warehousing solution and supports columnar storage up to a petabyte scale? Your options are Amazon DynamoDB, Amazon Redshift, AWS Database Migration Service, Amazon Aurora. Now in the question, you can see there is a talk about moving the data storage from on-premise to cloud. However, the gist of the question is to talk about a service which is providing you the capability of data warehousing and also supports columnar storage. So there are some distractors in the question. That's why it's very important you drill down to what is the gist of the question and then try to look for the answers. Now, the AWS service that provides a managed data warehousing solution and supports columnar storage is Amazon Redshift. Let's look at why others are not correct. DynamoDB is a managed NoSQL database service that is ideal for applications requiring high performance, low latency access to data at any scale. Therefore, it is not the correct answer as it is not a data warehousing solution. AWS Database Migration Service is a service that helps migrate databases to AWS. But again, it is not a data warehousing solution. That's why I told you to look at the gist of the question. Now, if you look at the first statement where it says your company is moving their data storage from on-premise to cloud, you might be tempted to the option AWS Database Migration Service, but that's not correct here. Amazon Aurora is a relational database engine that is fully compatible with MySQL and PostgreSQL. While that is an excellent choice for transactional workloads, it is not designed for data warehousing solution, which leaves us with only one option, which is option B, Amazon Redshift, which is the correct answer. Next question. Which element of the AWS global infrastructure enables caching of assets in a global content delivery network to reduce latency for end users? Your options are region, local zone, availability zone, edge location. And the correct answer here is edge location. Edge locations are part of the AWS content delivery network and are distributed data centers located in different geographic locations across the world. These edge locations serve as caching endpoints and are responsible for delivering content, including static files, videos, images, and other assets to users with low latency and high data transfer speeds. When a user requests the content is cached at the nearest edge location, reducing the round trip time and improving the overall performance for end users in that region.
Thanks for staying around until the end. If our content helped you pass the exam, please tag me on LinkedIn to help spread the word. Link to my LinkedIn profile is available in the description section of this video. And one last thing, if you found our content beneficial and want access to the full set of questions in PDF format, join our gold membership. Email me at devopshub2023@gmail.com to request your PDF copy once you have taken the channel membership. Happy studying.